As we begin our second session looking at Luke's Gospel, take a few moments and reflect on these pictures and use the prayer that is there or your own prayer.
So this evening we're going to look at the opening 4 verses of chapter 1, then we're going to join to chapter 4, verses 14 to 21. And what they are is they give us the formal opening of the gospel, and they give us Jesus' mission statement, Jesus in the synagogue at Nazareth. So in the opening 4 verses, we have a very formal literary style. It reflects the Greek style of writing of the day. The author is seeking to anchor his work in historical reality. Luke was neither an eyewitness nor an apostle, and he's going to tell the story in his own way. He tells the story as one who is utterly committed to the universal significance of it. And he names Theophilus, probably a catechumen, that he is writing the text for. And so we know that Jesus engages in a travelling ministry in Galilee, and then he chooses 12, during which time he performs miracles and teaches. And there is a variety of reactions to those who are confronted by Jesus' teaching. Enthusiasm and doubt, admiration and annoyance, wonder and small-mindedness. The first act of Jesus' ministry is to go into the synagogue in among the Jewish people to lift up a Jewish scroll, the scroll of the prophet Isaiah, and to read it. Jesus has a clear preference for those who can put his trust, their trust in him. Jesus focuses on the poor, the captive, the blind, and the oppressed. The care of God for the poor and the outcast are part of Jesus' preaching in Nazareth. The heroes of his stories are lepers, shepherds, tax collectors, public sinners, Samaritans and pagans, all who are outsiders to the system. So in our text this evening, Jesus is making 3 principal points. The important thing is that the text tells us, firstly, that Jesus is anointed with the Spirit. He is filled with God's Spirit, and because he is filled with God's Spirit, he can respond to the challenges of the ministry that he is given. We also remember from last week that one of the key themes was the Holy Spirit in the Gospel of Luke. Secondly, we see that he is the prophet of fulfillment. He declares good news. This office is what theologians call the eschatological prophet, or the prophet who is like Moses, because Jesus proclaims the arrival of a new age of salvation, a new age of functioning as the prophet leader. And that is denoted by the text in Isaiah and that notion of servant leadership. He will come to serve the poor. He will not come with political power. He will not come with political authority. And thirdly, Jesus is the one who brings release to those he proclaims the good news to. He is the Messiah. And this idea helps to explain when we hear the story of the blind man. He calls out to Jesus for healing. He calls out to Jesus as the Son of David, who brings not only a future role, but also a present role, a role that releases from sin and has a reversal of the effects of Satan's presence in the world. In short, this is the beginning of the fulfillment of God's promise, and Jesus is the source of that fulfillment. The good news is that salvation is not achieved through our own merits, but through the goodness of God. He knows when it is time to get out, and we hear at the end of the gospel that he escapes to live another day.
Reflect on these wider questions in the light of the gospel text this evening. You may wish to switch off the video as you do this. Here are one or two personal questions for reflection, for prayer, and for integration.